morning. It is now the back end of April. Unbelievably. And there's a lot of sowing to be done April, May, this sort of time. I'm going to start with beans. Now our frost date here, we're right on the border between the two kind of frost markers. So the 21st of March being the last frost date and the 21st of April being the last frost date. We're like right in the middle of that. So I'm going to go with the 21st of April, but we're actually past the 21st of April now. So although, I mean, sometimes you do always get like that odd cold snap, don't you? A bit later on down the line, I'm feeling pretty confident that we're past the main danger of frost. Having said that, we're supposed to be getting 1 degree later this week, so I'm going to have to cover those potatoes, or at least throw a bit of fleece over them. Anyway, that is not relevant to right now. I'm going to talk beans. So I'm getting my beans in now, and that's pretty much all of my beans. That includes ones for drying and shelling and fresh eating and all of those. I'm perfectly comfortable sowing my beans now indoors, but I wouldn't sow them outdoors. So beans grow perfectly well just being direct sown straight outside kind of mid-May, I would say. For me here, mid-May is good. The temperatures in the soil have warmed up enough that they will germinate. Whereas if I put them in the ground now, not only will they struggle to germinate because the soil's too cold, but also the mice and the rats and things will take them out of the soil immediately because there's not a lot around for them to eat, and they're not going to germinate fast enough to escape the rodents. So I'm not sowing mine direct, although I would say any that don't come up, I'm not worried that I'm not going to have enough, because I will just direct sow. When I plant these out, I'll direct sow some, you know, to fill in the gaps later, and they'll catch up with them. It's often a rule, you know, the later in the year you sow them, the faster they grow, so they end up catching up generally with the stuff you've started off really early anyway. So let's talk varieties of beans that are happening this year. So I normally grow a yellow, a purple and a green on the French bean front. The yellow one has always been Necker Gold. It's an outstanding bean. I really, really like it. It's delicious, it's beautiful, all the rest of it. Grows really easily, unless last year when I didn't get anything, because last year was a bit of a disaster when I planted them out. They all got slugged immediately. So we had a bit of a difficult year on the bean front last year. But yeah, Necker Gold, beautiful pale yellow, magnificent climbing French bean. And my purple one that I grow every single year is this one from Frankie's, the Violetto purple bean. What I really like about these ones is that you can pick them when they're really young, obviously, like you can with all French beans, but you can also forget about them. And they can get quite big, and then you can still eat them because they don't get really stringy and gnarly. And these make the most fantastic slow cooked French beans, whereas some of the other French beans are a bit too tender to do that and they fall apart. These ones, absolute best. They're so delicious and a really, really strong grower. I have grown Blauhild before, which is these ones. Last year when my main sowing of beans failed because of the slugs, I didn't have enough seeds left, so I kind of planted some other things in, and I did like these, but I didn't think they were as good, so I'm returning to the Violetta. So Necker Gold and Violetto are ones that I have grown, gosh, maybe for 6 years now, consistently. I've always wanted to grow a really good green bean as well up the arches, and I've really struggled to find an excellent variety of them. I've tried about 10. However, a couple of years ago I came across Cobra. What an outstanding bean. So I'm doing Cobra green beans as well. Now these three are going to go up the arches on the side of the plot. I have ummed and ahed about whether I'm going to put them there again this year, because our next door neighbour is repressing weeds on his side, which is excellent, but he's using plastic and it's all along that edge, and so obviously it's an absolute slug den. The moment I put my precious, incredibly tender, lovely beans straight out, it was just like straight off. It's like I'd never even planted them. So I'm going to have to be on major slug defence this year. Two dwarf bean varieties that I do really like. Unfortunately, I don't have any seed for it left this year, but this is Sinesta. What a great bean. I don't normally grow dwarf beans, although I am going to do it again this year because after the fact that my climbing beans didn't work last year, I kind of went in for dwarf ones because they're quicker to crop than the climbing beans. And this one was an absolute star, so I might actually get some more seed of that one. And the other green bean that I found as a dwarf bean that was really, really nice was this one, which was Hilton. Fab beans, so I'm going to probably do some of them as well. But like I say, they're much quicker to crop than the climbing beans because they don't have to get that big, obviously, before they start cropping. And I'll probably get some of them in, sow them end of May. So on to runner beans. The runner bean that I'm growing this year is Scarlet Empire. Now, the last couple of years I have grown Moonlight and Princess Diana, I think. Princess Di. Anyway, they're all white flowered ones because I really fancied the white flowers. And then I can't remember where I was last year. It might have even been Hampton Court at the little allotment stands. And they had, you know, a classic runner bean, that scarlet, incredible, like bright orange flower. And I just missed it so much. I was like, that is such a classic allotment site, those beans. So I have gone back full on for classic runner bean. So the variety Scarlet Emperor is kind of probably one of the most well-known, well-loved classic allotment runner beans with those kind of flowers. They've been grown for so many years, it's just like the bog standard one. But I saw this, so that's the one I was going to go for, but I saw this one, which is Scarlet Empire. But it just says an improved version of Scarlet Empire. Whether you can improve on a classic, I'm not sure, but this is the variety that I'm doing this year and I am very excited about it. I really like to grow the beans climbing because it just saves so much space, just go straight up, particularly now that we've got the arches going between the beds. You can have, instead of having a whole bed dedicated to, say, runner beans like we used to have a frame that sat inside the bed and it used the whole of the bed basically to grow the runner beans. Now we've got the arches, we're just using 2 tiny strips on either end of the bed, straight over the top, makes picking really easy and also saves loads of space. So I really do like the climbing bean thing. But as well as these ones, which are all for eating fresh, I do grow 2 climbing beans which are for drying, and the first one of those are Borlotti. This one's actually called Speckled Cranberry. I really liked this one. I used to grow a Frankie's one, couldn't get them last year, so we grew this one instead and it was absolutely great. And I've got quite a few seed left over, so I'm going to use this one again this year. These are mainly, though, grow for drying, so you leave the pods on there until they go paper dry at the end of the summer. They look stunning all summer because they're just beautiful. And when they go paper dry, you get these wonderful cream and burgundy speckled beans, which are just delicious. And then you dry them out thoroughly and then you can store them either in jars. I tend to store them in the freezer just for ease because we do sometimes get weevils, which isn't great when you've saved all your lovely beans and then you put them in a jar and then when you come back to them it's just dust and crawling things. Not nice. So I do freeze them. Same with the other drying bean that I grow, which is Greek Gigantese, which are lovely. They are a variety of runner bean really, but they're very fat and gnarled and you get basically what looks like butter beans out of them, except huge. So they're very flat, very big. I mean, they can be like this sort of size, kidney size, and perfect pure white. They are beautiful, absolutely love them. So I have actually been given some new ones to try this year. So they're going to grow up teepees, you know, a bit like how I've got my sweet peas growing in a bed. We'll just trial a load of them. The first one on those was given to me by Jinxie. Thank you very much, Jinxie. She gave me these last year and they unfortunately fell into the fail category with the slugs. So I'm giving them another go this year. She says they are, look, this, all my instructions, they are Asturian beans that she's been growing for 10 years and just saving her own seed up in Bristol. So I'm very excited about that. Her description of these Asturian beans can be eaten green from the pods or dried, similar to Greek Gigantese, but a bit smaller, to use as dried beans for hummus, soups, etc. So that's exciting. They're going to be up a teepee. And also from George, who's the chap who gave me his loganberry, I've got 2 from him. One is called Lazy Housewives. I remember him growing last year and really loving, and he's given me a couple of seeds of that, so I don't think that's even going to be a teepee. There's about 4 in there. I'm going to give them a go. And also, I can't read his writing here. It looks like Merville de Verise. Merville de Verise. I will look that up and write it at the bottom here. His writing's a bit all over the place. But so I'm going to do those 3 up a teepee, and that. I have also ummed and ahed about Mange 2. I used to love Mange 2, and then one year we just got so much of it, and you know it's got a really distinctive taste, and I just got so sick of the flavour of it. Didn't even like eating them fresh as I was just walking past the allotment. I was like, I'm over Mange 2. Anyway, I'm starting to think the joy might be coming back. So I'm going to put some in, but they're going to be in the same bed as my little trial beans. So there's not going to be too many of them. I'm not going to go overboard. But the variety that we're going to grow is called Golden Sweet. And I got them originally from Real Seeds. They are so pretty. Even if you're just going to use them for ornamental, they have got very pale yellow stems and their pods are like a primrose yellow. It's a really pale, beautiful, beautiful colour, almost translucent. And then their flowers are like a violet and a dark purple. What a combo. They're absolutely stunning. So I'm going to do a couple of them as well. And that is basically my bean selection for this year. Now, normally I start all of my beans off in root trainers, which are the clipped together, very, very long individual pots. It's like a cell tray, but you can open them up so that you don't damage the roots. And legumes in general have really long, deep roots, and so you can get them to start off a really nice root system before you plant them out. And then when you're planting them out, you don't have to jostle their roots around too much, so they work really well. But all of my root trainers are currently occupied, and on top of that, I don't want to go out and buy some more because they're quite expensive and also super flimsy. So I'm trying to move away from root trainers. And what I'm going to do instead is I have got these pots which are quite deep, because deep is what you want on a legume front. But they're wide. So what I'm going to do is plant 4 in each of these of my French beans, because French beans are quite spindly. I'm going to do 4 in each of these. But when I plant them out, I'm not going to separate them out. I'm just going to plant them in the ground like that. So I'm not going to disturb their roots. I wouldn't want to plant say 6 in here or whatever and then try and separate them out, because they just get a bit Something else to bear in mind, like I'm saying with those who don't want to jostle them around too much, is when you're going to sow them, beans is one of those things that if you go too early with them, they can be a real nightmare, particularly climbing beans, because they're so fragile. They grow so quickly and they're so fragile that if they're really, really huge by the time you get to plant them out, the likelihood is you're going to snap them and they're going to be very unhappy. It happens to me every year. I'm incredibly pleased with myself that it's actually like late April and I'm only just sowing my beans now, because often I get really excited like late March, early April, and by the time I plant them out, they're in a terrible state. This year I have waited and I'm very pleased with myself. So that's what I'm going to do. 4 French beans in each of these. If I'm going to be doing my runner beans, because they are much more vigorous plants in terms of they're beefier, so this will be my runner beans, my Greek Gigantese, I will plant just 1 in each of these pots. French beans are much more delicate plants than, say, the runner beans, which just go boom, 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 tumble over each other and form this like huge mass. Yeah, so that, chaps, is my beans for late April. But like I was saying, April is a manic month for sowing, and there is a lot of things that can start going in now. So I sowed my sweet corn 2 weeks ago, but you can sow that all the way through from now until May. Got plenty of time for it. All of the cucurbits, so actually I will run downstairs when I finish this bit and show you what mine look like, because I sowed them last week, did I, or was it the week before? Anyway, not very long ago. So that is my courgettes, patty pans, cucumbers, not my early ones, my like normal ones that are going to go into the greenhouse, and my pumpkins and melons. So I did mine 2 weeks ago, but you can go all the way through from then until, you know, mid-May. It's the same sort of time. They'll be perfectly happy. They grow so quickly. I don't feel you get any advantage from sowing them in, say, March or whenever, where you can grow them inside quite happily, but they get big so quickly, a bit like the beans, and then when you plant them out when they're huge, they sulk. So it's better to just wait a little bit. I am about to do second sowings of beetroot, turnips and spring onions, so they can all go in now. I've got to get some more lettuce in, and I'm also going to sow some mizuna. And on the greens front, pak choi, tatsoi, they can all go in now. The 3 that I'm going to be doing, well the 4 actually, but I don't have any red choi. I'm going to be doing this one, which is just komatsuna, which I've never tried before. This is it's called Japanese spinach, but it's another one of those oriental greens type plants. This one, interestingly, says it's an all-season one, so it doesn't tend to bolt. A lot of the pak choys tend to be cool season, so you don't want to be kind of putting them out in the middle of summer because they bolt really quickly. I'm also going to be doing tatsoi. Loved this last year, just Really, really tasty. I'll probably be growing that as quite small plants in the polytunnel, dot that in between the tomatoes because it was great. And do you remember me talking about the fact that one of my green pak choy varieties was way more successful over winter than, well, not way more successful, it was the only one that survived over winter, and it was absolutely brilliant, and it's only just bolted now. Couldn't remember what the variety was. Well, I found it. It's Yu Shu. This variety, so I'm not going to be putting this in now. This is just a side note. This is, I mean, I will be sowing some pak choy now, but it's going to be the red choy, which does brilliantly at this time of year. But this is the one that I'm going to sow late next year and have in the ground over winter, because what a stunner with the temperatures that we had this year. And it was absolutely perfect when all the other ones just lost their mind. This one stayed great. So yeah, I will be getting some of that in later this year. But the red choy is that one that looks like petrol purple. Stunning. And that's going to be going in this week too. Chard, spinach, chimida wrapper. My chimida wrapper I'm direct sowing straight in the bed. I scatter sowed that last year and it was divine. So I'm not going to start them off in modules. I don't think it works so well. So my chimida wrapper is just going to go direct sown straight into a bed. But that's going to go in next week. One other thing that I completely forgot to sow last year, which was a bit of a mare, fennel, bulbing fennel, you know, like the ones where you, not frondy fennel where you eat the tops, but the actual like bulb fennel. I love this stuff. I'm not very successful with growing it. I mean, even when we get a good year, they're only normally about this big, but I still go for it. And now is about the time, sort of April, May, you get away with that. So I'm gonna get some of those in. Carrots and parsnips. So carrots I sowed 2 weeks ago. No sighting of them yet, but they are in, and I'll do another lot in, say, another 2 weeks. So it's like a month between sowings, but you've got ages for carrots. You can sow them all the way through to June. And parsnips. I don't know if you remember, I started my parsnips off in the wet tissue paper to see which ones germinated, so I didn't have the problem of poor germination in the beds. Well, I tell you what, I had poor germination in the kitchen roll. Not a single one of them germinated, not one, not a single one. And I must have put about 40 in there. Nothing. That does also mean that I'm going to change my variety to Gladiator, which is instead of Hollow Crown, which is the one I had, I'm going to get some Gladiator, which means I can join in with the potty mouth parsnip challenge. So I'm getting in on that action. It's also an excellent time to be sowing kales and purple sprouting broccoli. I'd say for possibly the kalettes and Brussels sprouts, we're cutting it a bit fine. Kind of getting a little bit late for them, but all the kales and things absolutely fine to still go now. Herbs, I've got some parsley and some coriander in, and also some Thai basil, but I'll be sowing more of them as we go. I'm going to get normal basil in, chervil, dill, leaf fennel, all of those kind of things. Another thing that it might be just coming a little bit too late for is celery and celeriac is more of a like February, March type of thing, but you can still get the leaf celery in, you know, for cutting the herb celery. But yeah, it is a wild time for sowing right now. About the only things which I would say it's definitely probably too late for in where I am is going to be chilies and aubergines. They need such a long season to get going. If you haven't got the seed in by now, I'd maybe go out and see if you can buy some already, you know, growing plants, because it's just a little bit too late for them, I'd say. I'm also going to be getting in some tomatillos. I've got some seed for those, which are like a physalis, but they are green, very large fruit, really good for making salsas and things. I'm going to get some of them in. I've got cucamelons to go in. Basically, it is a wild time for sowing. Right, okie dokie. I think I'm going to get on with sowing some of these beans now. And yeah. Oh, I forgot my coffee. All that chatting, it's gone cold. Pants. Right, before we head up to the allotment, let's just see what those cucurbits are doing. So these are all of my courgettes, pumpkins, cucumbers, all that kind of malarkey that I sowed 2 weeks ago. They are looking fantastic. Got a bit of lack of germination along this side, but you can see they're just starting to come up. You can see that the soil is raising up a bit, but yeah, I'm very happy. Look, I just love the size of the cucurbit seedlings. They are just so beefy. Although look, you can see how much more delicate the cucumbers are. They are much smaller. But if you contrast them with, like up here, if you contrast them with the tree spinach, and how diddy they are. I mean, and while we're down here, let me just show you the cucumbers because they're going nuts. Look at the size of these chaps. We took a couple off early on, but yeah, they are in full force now. Okay, let's head up to the allotment at last. What a load of ramble. What else we got to do, girls? Okay, I'll let you out in a sec. Sorry. 1 minute. That's all I can think of in a minute, guys. Okay, we have a lot to get done today, and this is the only day of sunshine that we've got coming up this week. I mean, it's pretty perfect, but yeah, it's going to become more and more miserable throughout the week with rain and grim weathers, and it's going to get back down to 2 in the nighttime temperatures, which is just pants. But you know, that's the way it goes. Hopefully this is going to be the last like proper temperature dip before we're kind of like straight into summer. Anyway, second half of the bean sowing is going to be getting some more broad beans in. I meant to get some of these in earlier. I was going to do 2 sowings of them. You know, I got my Borlotti in earlier up in the top bed, so that was the ones which were supposed to be overwintered. Obviously I had to start some later because a lot of them just really couldn't cope with the winter this year, which was a bit of a shame. But that was going to be my like 2 autumn sowings, and then my 2 spring sowings were going to be Eleanor Express. I missed my first spring sowing, don't know what I was doing, but I didn't do them, so there's just going to be a much larger second later spring sowing. So I'm going to get probably at least half of these beans in today, so we'll get another half a bed of broad beans going today, so that's quite exciting. It's the Eleanor Express that I'm doing. These are supposed to be a really fast cropping variety, so I might possibly be able to get another lot in, like possibly halfway through next month. Just see how many seeds is in there for a start, because I might just use the whole packet to do half a bed, but we will see. I'm going to get some little pots out to do that, and then like you saw me doing my list a minute ago, I've got a lot to do today, so I better just get on with it, I think, really. Hey girlies, they say yes, get on with it, woman. First I've got to take this coat off. It's absolutely boiling, although I've got to say it is really windy, so the sky is perfect and the sun is gorgeous, but we've still got this wind coming down from the north. At the moment, like the wind is coming straight down from Coldness O'Clock, straight up there. So I'm hoping that after we get past this little cold snap, the wind is going to like swoosh around and be coming up from Europe, in which case it would be balmy and beautiful. In the meantime, I'm going to go and stand in the greenhouse, because I won't be able to record like out and about today because the wind will just be like, and nobody wants that. Right, broad beans. Second wave of broad beans is in, finally. Actually, I was looking around in here and I have a lot of stuff to pot up, but it is such a beautiful day. I think I'm going to save that because today's the last of the sunny days, like I was saying, and then it's just going to be rain and pants for the rest of like 2 weeks. I think it's going to be at least a week and a half as far as my forecast will go on my telephone. But yeah, I've got stuff to put up. I think that's just going to be a rainy day thing. I'm not going to waste it today. I think the next job on my list for today is going to be sow some wildflower seeds. So these are the areas that we're going to be putting the wildflower seeds. That's in here. We've weeded this out a couple of times, but a lot of this that's coming up is actually stuff which was self-seeded from the wildflowers we had in here last year. So I'm a bit reluctant to kind of hoe and take the whole lot out because there's going to be some interesting bits and pieces in here. But that's one patch we're doing. I'm also going to do here between the sweet peas and the lickness. And then on this other side of the pond, open patches where we can get some seed in. So hopefully the pond is going to be surrounded by flowers in a couple of months' time. Also going to chuck some under here because when the daffodils die down, so I want something to replace them a bit later in the season. So previously I have used a pre-made mix. I used an absolutely beautiful one from Pictorial Meadows, I think they're called, the company. It was a joy. But then I used the same seed mix last year and it just didn't work out, but I think I sowed it at the wrong time and it was just, obviously it was such a difficult, I think is the right word, difficult year last year. But I don't have any of that seed mix left and I'm not going to rush out and buy some more because it's not cheap. And I have got, you've seen in my flower seed drawer previously, it's absolutely chocker. So I'm just going to make up a bit of a mix myself. So the flower that I discovered in that first Pictorial Meadows mix was Linaria toad flax. What a stunning find. Love it. I mean, I've seen it as a wildflower just like growing around and growing out like cracks in pavement and stuff before, but never actually kind of seen it en masse like it was around the pond that year. It was just a joy. It was so beautiful. God, sun's gone in, it's actually quite chilly. Yeah, so I'm going to put in a lot. There's not a lot of seed in that, although the seed is incredibly fine, so I'm just going to dust that around, mainly on the very edge of the pond because that's where it was when it looked its finest. So I'm hoping for that. I also have a couple of really beautiful mixes of Californian poppies. Now they grow so easily and we have got 2 types across the whole plot. We've got like a beautiful primrose yellow one, like a really pale white cream yellow sort of colour. And then we've got the classic big bang in your face orange. And I'm going to throw some of these in the mix. Californian poppies are so easy. The reason that I'm sort of going for these 2 initially is because I just know that they grow so easily. You can't stop them growing. So I'm going to get those in. Actually, I've just realised I've got another mix of Californian poppies, so I'm going to dust them around. You know, I was showing you all the different areas around the pond. Well, I've also got those bits underneath the trees, so I might just throw some of these in under the trees, just, you know, a mix of a whole load. Can't have enough Californian poppies. Actually, I think Mum would disagree with that. But still, shh, she won't know. Black ball cornflowers. I actually have a lot more success with these when I sow them in autumn as opposed to now. But I've got 2 packets. I'm going to sow another lot in autumn for next year, and I'm going to throw this one in now in the hope, the possibility that we might get some, because they're an absolute joy. I love them. They make such good cut flour. So I'm going to throw them in. I'm also going to throw in some Rebecca. This is Aries, this one, and it was in that seed mix, or in one of the seed mixes I did, and boy was it beautiful. It's not hugely tall. Sometimes Rebecca can be like bam. This was like maybe a foot, 30 centimeters, that kind of height, and it was just so lovely. So that is what I'm putting in. It is not an elegant colour selection. It's a bit mishmash of everything, but I'm all right with that. It's going to be gorgeous. And at least 2 things in here, so the Cali poppies and the Linaria, I know grow really easily from seed, so I'm not worried about them. I'm just going to chuck them in. We've got tons of actual poppies coming up in there already, so like real poppies, not Cali poppies. So they will mix in there. We also have a lot of Nigella that's also coming up in there. That's Love in the Mist. So that's going to be like a blue tinge, so we'll have blue. The poppies are normally a mixture. The ones that we have grow wild up here are a mixture of like that classic red, you know, the really papery, tiny little poppy that's red, beauty. And we also get the big like opium poppies, which are like a pale violet colour. So we'll have a mix of those. What else have we got that's going to come up in there? Oh, loads of lickness, bright fuchsia pink lickness. So it's going to be a bit of a riot. But, you know, Who doesn't like a riot?
So what I could do to sow this wildflower seed would be just to hoe the areas that I'm sowing into and then scatter the seed in there, and then it's all, the soil is broken up so it will find its place, water it in it and it'll be fine. However, I don't want to hoe the areas because we've already got quite a lot of bits and pieces coming up of their own accord. So what I'm going to do is actually mix the seed itself with some of our soil. I'm not using compost, I'm just using our garden soil because it's a bit sandier. And it won't blow away so much, and then I'm going to scatter the whole lot, so the seed and the soil into the areas that I want, which will kind of give the seed a little bit of an anchor without me having to disturb what's already in there. That is the plan. There is actually another advantage to doing it this way, is that if you're going to mix your seed in with the soil, when you're scattering it, your seed is already quite well spread throughout the soil, so you tend not to get large clumps where, you know, the seed is just kind of falling out of your hand. You get a much more even spread of what you're trying to sow. Give it a really good mix around, and then once you've mixed it all up, if you've got some sort of quite large seed in, I mean this would be impossible with the Linaria, but with this Californian poppies, when you spread it you can just see the seed is really quite well spread throughout the compost. One there, one there, one there, one there. So when I spread this soil out, I should have a really nice even spread of the flower seed that I've mixed in here without too many big clumps. What was I saying about my carrot seed not having germinated yet? Look at those beautiful lines of carrots. That's quite exciting.
So the other thing that I have on that list from this morning, oh God, they look really good, those roots, don't they? Look at that. Is to get these out. So these are the two bits that I bought in the, where was it? Where were we? Squires? Does it say Squires? It doesn't say Squires. I think it was Squires. Anyway, irrelevant where I got them from. I cheated. I bought them. These are the Celeriac that look fantastic. Mine, I'll show you mine in just a moment. They look teeny tiny. But yeah, so these and these Radicchio, they're ready to go out. I mean, they're big, and they've also been in the cold frame for like a week and a half. I think they are ready to go out, but it's just a decision on like where are we actually going to plant them. Between my peas and these are field beans, these need to come out actually. I might make a risotto with them and then chop them down. But yeah, I've got this little patch in here that's ready to go. I could definitely get something in there.
And I'm going to put the celeriac in here. Celeriac is a really long season crop. You sow it very early in the year, and then you don't really end up eating it until November, December into January time. So it's in the ground a really, really long time. And although I've got the peas on one end of this bed, which is a short season crop, where I have these field beans on this end is where I'm going to be planting out some of my longer season brassicas. The field beans are there to up the nitrogen levels in preparation for the brassicas, so I already know that's what's going on in this end of the bed. And I find it's quite handy to consolidate your really long season crops into beds together, because it makes clearing either in autumn or spring next year just that bit easier when you've kind of got totally clear beds and then other beds which are still in full production. Just kind of makes things a bit easier. So yes, my little celeriac plants sandwiched between my peas and currently my field beans, but soon to be brassicas. In general, celeriac, celery and things don't really need to be covered in terms of pests. They don't have any kind of caterpillars that go for them in particular or anything like that. However, I am going to cover these up because I've got a rather curious crow that is doing a lot of walking around on my beds at the moment and may have a tendency to see a newly planted out pretty little plant and just hoik it out of the ground. I think they do it for entertainment value, but it's incredibly annoying. So I'm going to cover these with just a bit of plastic mesh. It doesn't have to be netting or anything because I'm not trying to really keep anything specific out. I just want to stop them being turfed out for another creature's amusement. And then there's just the radicchio to find a home for, but I have quite a lot of this and it's going to need a whole half a bed that I haven't prepped yet. So I think it's just back into the cold frame for you, little chap.
So yeah, I'm going to leave that at least until tomorrow. So I can consult Mum, because we've got kind of two options of where to put it, and I know that we had made some decisions on how much chicory we were going to grow this year. I thought we should keep it and she thought we didn't, but I'll just wait for her to be up here, because if you share a space you've got to kind of negotiate. Yes, so that's that done. I gotta say, been very little chicken squabbles today. Hey girls, are we getting on with it? They seem to be calming down. I mean, Margot is most definitely 100% the bottom of the bunch. That's her position, that's where she's going to stay. But just hoping that they've got it out of their system. I'm just watching her, sorry. Hoping they've got it out of their system, bullying her. Well, they're always going to get bullied. Do you know what chickens are like? They're bullies. But once they've got the established order, they do tend to chill out a bit more. So I'm hoping. Hey Margot, I'm hoping for you, sausage. I am. Neither of the new girls have got to grips with laying in the actual house yet though. So where they came from, they didn't have any house. I mean, they were inside permanently, but there was no like laying spot. They were only just at point of lay anyway, so they haven't really got to grips with that. And so Val and Margot are just laying their eggs willy-nilly. In fact, I have just picked this one up off the floor outside. But yeah, so, talking about outside, the biggest news on the chicken front, apart from getting new chickens obviously, is that chicken lockdown is over. Officially 18th, what is it today? I think it's the 19th, might be the 20th, it's something around that. Anyway, just the day before, it was either yesterday or the day before, chicken lockdown is over. So the chickens have been in lockdown for, wow, was it since October? I think so, because of the avian flu risk. Yeah, so now they are allowed out. We're not letting them roam free at the moment because I value my plants. But maybe when all four of them are well trained with the tin, we'll let them out. But yeah, basically they're just happy. They are happy chappies. Chickens across the country, or poultry, birds in general across the country, are rejoicing. Oh, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today up here. I've got the main jobs I wanted to do done, which is excellent. Everything else that I've got to do this week that's on my major to-do list is all either indoors or can be done like in the greenhouse when it's raining. So I'll get that done later in the week. So I'm going to pack up. I'm going to pack up, girlies. I am, yes. That includes you. I'm going to pack you up. I am, yes. Oh, I must remember to water in those celeriac. I'll water them in on my way out, turn off the hose, and yeah, I think that's it for today, chaps. Right, are you ready, girls? Are you ready? 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 They don't look ready. Actually, I'm a bit low on that camera. Well, it is the next day and the weather forecast did not lie. It is raining and it is really very cold. A bit of a change from yesterday, but you know, I suppose jobs in the greenhouse, which is the potting up of the brassicas. And now they're looking really good. Let me just grab them. So take these Cavallonero, for example. This is the one where I accidentally also sowed the Celeriac, so it's a bit of a double whammy. But look how healthy these chaps are looking. They're looking really strong, but if you notice, they're on like a sideways stem like that. So I'm going to bury them right up to the hilt in the compost and give them a really good solid start, and then grow them on a little bit longer, just until their roots have really kind of filled those pots, and then they will be going outside. 2 varieties of Cavallonero. How many? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 in there. I've got, oh, another 5. Okay, so I've got like 10 Cavallonero plants. That's quite good. And then we've got, who do we have here? We have got Kalettes, purple pointy cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and kohlrabi. I'm just noticing actually that the Brussels sprouts, I only have 1 Brussels sprout. Which isn't going to do as much good, is it? So I might have to get some more of those. Although, I remember now, I only sowed what I had, didn't I? Because it was that Crispus one that is clubroot resistant. We might just have to go with 1 Brussels sprout plant this year. Oh well, it's the thought that counts. Anyway, I'm going to pop these up. I'm going to hide in the greenhouse in this pants weather. Hey, Lil. Lily's out there. Do you want to come in here, love? Do you want to come in here? I'll go to the shed. No, she's gone to the shed. Sensible girl, it's warmer in there. Yes, I'm just going to pop them up, hide, and do that. Actually, I've just got more than the brassicas that need potting up. I've got a lot of chard. And look how fantastic these Valmain lettuces look. They look really, really strong. But how many did I sow in there? It's like an absolute forest. Not ideal, but never mind. I'll get some of them out. Although, I mean, I'm going to wait for this little bit of weather to be past us. Can you tell I don't feel like doing much? Okay, right. Action stations, let's go. I'm going to go get the compost. Hopefully it's not completely soggy because it's been raining all night. Mixed up with a bit of vermiculite, and get sowing. How some of these in fact are planted right in the corner of the pot, which aesthetically is a bit irritating. It's not really going to do them much trouble, and what I didn't want to do was plant them all bent over like that in the center of the pot, sticking up that way. So I'm essentially jamming them in the pot like that. It's to give them a really good root system on the bottom. They're going to go straight from these pots into the ground. So the fact that all their roots is sort of on one side really isn't going to make that much of a difference, and it just gives them a bit of strength, because I really want to anchor this bit of their stem into the soil, and my pots are only this big. So if I put it straight in the centre like that, I'm going to snap it trying to get it up. So I've just bent it down like that, and it's in that corner, if you see what I mean, which is why it looks like I've potted all my stuff up wonky. Don't judge me for my wonky Cavalier Nero. And then some of them, like this one, which was also on a long stem, just seem to be able to manipulate it a bit better, and it goes central. But don't fret about them being in the corner of the pot. I know I'm fretting about them being in the corner of the pot, but don't follow me. Just accept it. I think these are going to go into the bed that I planted the Celeriac out. So that is the plan. Righty ho, Cavalier Nero potted up. I'm very pleased with that. Now the question is, do I want to do the rest of the brassicas today? Now the difference here is that the other ones are actually in modules. So whereas these were just all in here, so their roots were all tangled, and I wanted them to kind of have a bit of time on their own and develop their root system a bit better before I put them out. These ones, although they're in small modules, they are in modules, which means that when I pop them out, they are not entangled with each other. So I could just leave them in there. They're growing away quite happily. Well, little Cavalier Neros, I hope you like your new pots, chaps. I'll just give you a bit of a water and you should be good. Lovely. But I tell you what, it's actually stopped raining, which is rather tick. And we've got something very exciting to pick. That rhymed. Excellent. No, we've got something quite exciting to pick. Not much of it. It's not going to be a meal, but we've got some. Right, are you ready? Have you got the knife?
Don't play those games again. It's very tall, isn't it?
We've got this one here. Should we take that one?
No, it's not really tall enough, is it?
Okay.
I've just got that really big one up there. That one's a bit taller, is it?
Not really, same height, and if we're going to get a bit of warm weather, they'll shoot up
Yeah,
anyway, so we'll just go
it's
with
just
super
that.
skinny and super fat.
Yes.
This one. A beauty. A fat and a small. A fat and a not fat. It's like, this is my asparagus and that's Mum's asparagus.
I don't think that's very true.
Yeah, so we got two. This is a very, very first. Obviously, this is not going to make a whopping meal, but it's the first two. And there's loads more coming. So funnily enough, our new asparagus bed, like, they are coming up big and beefy like this. Old asparagus bed, looking a bit spindly, aren't they?
Yes.
But, you know, it might be coming to the end of its time. But yeah, happy. We might be cutting that one in half, long ways though.
Yeah, look, this is the new asparagus bed. I mean, I say new, we've had it in here for 4 years, so it is pickable now. But yeah, fatties. Got another fatty there. Huge big beasts. Absolutely huge.
These look quite good, actually.
Yeah, they look really fantastic. And then on the other side, we've actually got another variety, but that's always, so far, that's always been later than this side. So I'm not worried about the fact that none of that's come up yet. Just very happy with this. If it would focus, will it focus? No focus? No, it won't. You've got blurry asparagus. There we go. Hello, Margot. Hey, beautiful girl. This horrible woman, she is vicious. And she's got sort of a strange, wild look in her eye these days. Hey, girlies. She's got strange, what? She's a crazy. She's a crazy, isn't she? She's a crazy. Beautiful girl. You see, this chicken is just up for a cuddle at all times. She is gorgeous. Hey, beautiful girl. Are you? Oh, you're so lovely and warm under those feathers. You are so lovely and warm under there. That's a bit of bamboo. You don't want that, lovely. You horrible beast.
Horrid beast. Horrid beast, Florence.
And we're home. Cheers. This is going to be incredibly quick because what a long video. I've actually cut so much out of this video, which is going to be in next week's. We went on a day trip this week, chaps, for World Earth Day. No time to fit it in. Outrageous. Outrageous. That's what happens. Like, this is all about sowing this month. I could have just done like an hour-long video listing all the things you can sow in April. The list is practically endless. Anyway, that's all we've got time for this week. Oh, I sound like a kids' TV show. That's all we got time for this week, chaps. So I'm going to do huge cheers as always to the Monday Clubbers. You're all incredible. Cheers to everybody else. It's the end of April. Everybody's seed trays are exploding. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. I did look at the forecast again today, and actually there is a 19, 20, 21 coming at the end of, like, not this week but next week. So if they don't change their mind by then, happy days. Yeah, see you next week, chaps. You're all marvellous. What a rush. Whew. Yeah. Cheers.